My sister sent me a text. Not everyone's as lucky as you. Some of us actually depend on family. About a minute later, my mom chimed in. That's why you send that support every first of the month. Quietly. I didn't say much. Just gave a small nod. But that night, I opened up my banking app, scrolled to that familiar transfer, and hit cancel on the $2,000 I'd been automatically sending them every month for 3 solid years. Then, at exactly 6:03 in the morning, my phone buzzed. The payment didn't go through. A few seconds later, rent's due. And finally, you promised. I didn't answer right away. Just sat there, staring at the messages while sipping yesterday's cold coffee, letting that silence settle in. Eventually, I typed back. I updated our arrangement. Sent it. No reply. By noon, there was a loud banging at my door. Not a knock, but the kind of pounding that says, I belong here. I opened the door and saw my mom standing there, dressed like she was about to deliver a quarterly report. Power blazer, heels clicking, and under one arm, a red folder with urgent review stamped right on the front. Can I come in? She asked, though she was already halfway into my apartment before I had the chance to answer. I just stepped aside. She marched in and dropped her purse on the coffee table like she owned the place. You canceled the transfer, she said, her tone sharp and pointed, like an accusation. I did, I said calmly. Her eyes widened. No warning? No conversation? I didn't think I needed to make a public announcement, I replied. She shot back. You think silence is a substitute for support? Your sister is drowning. Then she shoved the red folder at me. This is her eviction notice. I looked at it but didn't pick it up. So what, this is how you fix it? I said, showing up like I'm the one who let her down? I helped because I could. That's what family's supposed to do, right? No, I said, my voice dropping. That's what I've been doing. Quietly. Every single first of the month. 36 months straight. She tensed. Her mouth was pressed in a tight line. And what do I get for it? I went on. No thank you. No phone calls. No happy birthdays. Just dry texts whenever the money's late. She's your sister, my mom said, her tone softening just a touch. And you have the means. I let out a slow breath. Yeah. But I'm out of patience. I'm tired of being treated like a salary, not a sibling. It all started after my dad passed. Heart attack. Sudden. One day he was making dinner, the next he was gone. Right after the funeral, Mom sat me down at the kitchen table, pulled out a stack of printed bills, and said, "You're the man of the family now." I hadn't even processed the grief yet. She started listing everything. How much was left on Mari's apartment, what was needed for her son's kindergarten, insurance premiums, grocery costs. And honestly, I didn't push back. I had a stable job. Made good money. Lived alone. Compared to them, yeah, I was privileged. So I set up the monthly transfer. $2,000. No questions. No strings. At first, they were thankful. Mom told me I was their rock. My sister even sent those little heart emojis. But after a while, the appreciation just vanished, like someone flipped a switch. No more kind words. No check-ins. Just reminders whenever the money didn't land exactly at midnight. You didn't send. You're late. Because of you, I got a penalty. Mari even quit her job 3 months after Dad died. Said full-time work and parenting didn't mix. Mom backed her up, of course. And me? I just kept wiring the money. Then came the extras. Can you send $500 for Sam's dentist? Mari's taking some online classes. She needs a laptop. The city's too loud for the kid. We want to spend a few days by the lake. I didn't argue. Didn't ask why. Just adjusted the amount. Because that's what good sons do, right? What good brothers are supposed to do. Until that one weekend in July. It was hot, and on a whim, I decided to swing by unannounced. Thought I'd surprise Sam with a t-shirt featuring his favorite comic character. They told me they couldn't afford outings or anything fun, so I figured he'd be home. What I walked into wasn't what I expected. Brand new PlayStation right there in the living room. Amazon boxes freshly opened. Mari lounging on the couch with a glass of wine. Sam had an iPad in his hands, headphones on, watching cartoons on a paid streaming app. I was still standing in the doorway, holding the bag of gifts, when my mom appeared, holding a shiny new blender. "Oh, you didn't tell us you were coming," she said with the same practice smile she used when cashing my checks. I didn't answer. Just looked around. New curtains. A fancy coffee machine. A fridge covered in magnets. From a trip to Santa Monica, apparently. The trip they told me they couldn't afford. So I asked, for the first time, "Where's the money going?" Mom frowned. "To the family. Like always." "Really?" "Because I'm looking at a $1,000 game console. A new iPad. And those magnets from Santa Monica." Mom just shrugged. Mari needed a break. It's not easy, you know. She's a single mother. I turned to my sister. "You don't even have a job. And yet somehow, you're living better than half the people I know." Mari raised her eyebrows, sarcastic. "Oh, right. Must be so hard for you. Sitting in your fancy office with your morning latte. Not everyone has your privileges." And that was the first crack. The one that started everything. I snapped. "You know why I have those privileges? Because I worked 60-hour weeks. Because while you were out partying, I was studying through the night. While you were complaining about how unfair life is, I was the one footing the bills. For you, for Mom, for your kid." Mom tried to calm things down. "No need for drama. You've never said anything before." "Because I thought you actually needed help," I said. "But now I get it. You just got used to living off me." Sam looked up at me then. He's 7. None of this is his fault. But Sam saw it all. He was right there watching. And that night after I got home, I sat down, opened my laptop, and this time I didn't just pause the payments. I shut them off for good. No more, just for this month. I meant permanently. So when my mom stormed in the next day with that dramatic red folder, I still managed to keep my cool, but just barely. I kept telling myself, this is just another performance. Just another guilt trip in a different outfit. But the next morning changed everything. I got a message, not from my family, but from a coworker named Sam. Not my nephew, but a guy from work. He'd been at the mall over the weekend with his girlfriend and sent me a short video clip with one line, "Isn't this your sister?" I opened it, and there she was, Mari, standing inside one of those sleek, high-end boutiques, laughing as she tried on a pair of suede thigh-high boots. They had to cost at least $800. And let me tell you, they weren't meant for any job interview or rainy sidewalk. These were boots made for showing off, not stepping up. In the background, her son, little Sam, was slouched on a velvet bench, holding a giant triple-scoop sundae that was melting all over his shirt. And a few steps behind them, my mom, casually chatting with the cashier while sliding her card into the reader like she was buying milk. But the real kicker? The timestamp. The video was taken exactly 2 days after Mari sent me a message saying, "We can't afford groceries this week. Please, just this once, help us out again." I must have watched that video on repeat. Then again. Then 7 more times. Each time chipped away at whatever patience I had left. I didn't send a text. Didn't call. Just grabbed my keys and drove straight to their apartment. The whole ride over, my ears were ringing. Not from the traffic or the road noise, from anger. Mari opened the door with that same polished smile she always wore when she needed something. Practiced. Controlled. "Wow. Twice in 1 week," she said, leaning casually on the frame. "Everything okay?" "Are you?" I asked, brushing past her before she could even step aside. The moment I walked in, I could smell it. Fresh cookies, lavender candles, and entitlement. Mom was in the kitchen, humming while making tea, like it was a normal Sunday family visit. Like I hadn't been bankrolling this entire fantasy of struggling. "I want answers," I said. I kept my voice level, but that just seemed to rattle them more than yelling ever would. Mari looked confused. "About what?" "You said you couldn't make rent. Said your kid had no school supplies. No food. And then I get video proof of you dropping hundreds on designer boots and sugar comas like you're prepping for a fashion shoot." Her face went pale. That fake calm shattered. "Are you spying on us now?" she hissed. "I don't need to spy. People exist. Cameras exist. And the truth has this weird way of surfacing. Mom stepped in with her tea mug like she was mediating a board meeting. This isn't the time. Actually, it's the perfect time, I said. You want to talk about privilege? Let's talk about how mine turned into your monthly allowance. You didn't just lean on me, you depended on me like I was an ATM with no limit and no voice. I paused. And worst of all, I felt invisible the whole time. Mari raised her voice. I needed those boots, for confidence. For a job interview. Confidence. I repeated, staring at her boots. They look more nightclub than job fair. You weren't looking for work. You were playing dress up. She gasped, furious. You're twisting everything. You have no idea what it's like. No, you lied. Over and over. And when the lie didn't work by the first of the month, you just turned up the guilt. Pressured me with expectations I never agreed to. Mom stepped between us like a referee. Don't talk to your sister that way. I looked her right in the eye. Excuse me? Then I turned toward Mari. I'm not talking to a sister. That woman standing there? She stopped acting like my sister a long time ago. Mari's hands started shaking. You think this is easy? Raising a kid alone? Losing our father? You think I didn't lose him too? I snapped. I just grieved differently. I stayed quiet. Paid the bills. Showed up. You spent your grief like it was store credit. She recoiled like I slapped her. You think you're better than us, she said through clenched teeth. With your career. Your apartment. Your savings account. No, I said. I'm not better. But I am responsible. And you used that responsibility like a weapon. She turned and flung her mug into the sink. It shattered. Tea sprayed across the counter like it wanted out too. You're just bitter, she hissed. You were always jealous. Always on the outside. And there it was. The truth. The root. The rot that had always been there. You're right, I said quietly. I was jealous. Jealous of how easy it was for you. How you were always the favorite, no matter what you did or didn't do. Her voice lowered to a growl. Because I needed more. No, I said, my voice steady. You just took more. I pulled out an envelope I'd been carrying in my jacket pocket. Slapped it down on the table between us. What's that? Mom asked, her voice shaky. A full breakdown, I said. 3 years. $2,000 a month. Plus the extras. I started listing. The emergency laptop. The surprise school trip. The birthday party bailouts. The new tires. Groceries. Utilities. Gas money. Total. I said, looking right at her. $84,600. Mari scoffed. What, you want it back? No, I said. I know you can't repay it. That's the whole point. You can't even grasp what I've been carrying this whole time. Mom slowly sank into a chair like the numbers knocked the strength out of her legs. So what? Mari spit. You're cutting us off? After everything? After everything, I confirmed. You turned me into your silent provider. Your punching bag with a checking account. And I let it happen. But I'm finished now. Mari's eyes went wide as she stepped closer. And what about Sam? My kid? You're gonna leave him behind. I took a breath. He'll still get a birthday card. And something under the tree at Christmas. I told her flat out, I'll be his uncle, sure. But I'm not gonna be his bank account anymore. And what about Mom? She asked. I let out a breath. I've taken care of Mom too. When her car gave out, I paid for the repairs. When the air conditioner died in the middle of July, I covered it. That hospital copay she couldn't swing? I handled that too. But I'm not here to be her retirement plan. Mom lowered her voice, almost like a prayer. You're abandoning your family. No, I said, rising from my chair. I'm just finally stepping away from a setup that never treated me like family, just like a function, a role to fill. The silence that followed was deafening. Not one word, but it said everything. Then Mari finally muttered, You're being cruel. No, I told her. I'm finally being fair. I turned and walked toward the door. Where are you going? Mom called after me. Home, I said, not even glancing back. To my home. The one I worked for. The one you've never asked about, because you were too busy asking for more. Mari followed me into the hallway. You're gonna regret this. One day you'll come crawling back. I gave her a sad smile. I needed you for years. And you weren't there. So no, you don't get to scare me with something I already survived. Then I got in my car and drove away. No shaking hands. No second thoughts. Just me, the road, and the feeling that, for the first time in a long time, I had a life that was mine. And you know what? I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. I figured they'd go quiet after that. And they did. No texts. No missed calls. Not even a forwarded meme. 2 full weeks passed, no money sent, no performances staged. It was like I'd yanked the cord out of the family group chat and walked off before the screen went dark. But eventually, the ripple hit. First came a text from my cousin Lana. Just 3 words, "You okay, man?" I could tell from the timing, she'd definitely heard something. So I asked her straight up, "What did they say?" She didn't explain. Just sent a screenshot. Mari had taken to Facebook, the public stage, and dropped one of her signature guilt-drenched monologues. A long, winding paragraph about how the people who are supposed to protect you will sometimes abandon you, and some relatives only show love when they're in control. I didn't comment, didn't post, didn't need to, because the fallout took care of itself. Turns out Mari had torched what little savings she had, if you could even call it that, in less than 3 weeks. Rent hadn't been paid. School fees were overdue. The electric bill? Unpaid. No backup plan. No safety net. Mom tried stepping in. She actually offered to help this time. Pulled out her own credit card, for the first time in what felt like forever. But it got declined. That's when I got the knock. It was a Tuesday. I'd just gotten home from work, still dripping from the rain. I was shaking water off my coat when the buzzer went off. It was Mom. No dramatic folder this time. No power blazer. Just a windbreaker and a plastic bag from the pharmacy, the logo almost rubbed off. "Can I come in?" she asked. I didn't answer. Just opened the door and walked toward the kitchen. She followed. "I'm not here to fight," she said softly, sitting at the table. I want to talk." I poured myself a glass of water, sat across from her and waited. She didn't look angry. She looked worn down. Like she hadn't slept in weeks. "Mari's in trouble," she began. "They're behind on rent. She might lose the apartment." I nodded, slowly. That's what happens. Choices come with consequences. "She made mistakes," Mom said. "I made some too. But that boy..." That name hit me in the chest. The one piece of this whole mess I couldn't just write off. I tried to separate my anger from him, but it wasn't easy. "She didn't just make mistakes," I finally said. "She built a whole life off my back. And treated me like a service, not a person. And honestly, so did you." Mom's face twisted. "I know," she whispered. "I didn't see it. Or maybe I didn't want to." She looked down. "After your father died, I just needed someone, to hold everything steady. And you were steady. And you used that," I said, not letting her off the hook. "Over and over again." Her eyes welled up, but for once, I didn't break. "You always called me the strong one," I continued. "But you used that strength as an excuse to never ask if I was okay." She reached for my hand across the table. I didn't take it. "I'm not here to ask for money," she said. "I just want you to know. I see it now. What we did. What I did. And I'm sorry." It wasn't a grand gesture. It wasn't loud. But it hit me harder than any shout ever could. "I appreciate that," I said. "But I'm not going back. Not to the old version of me. The guy who says yes to everything. Who keeps bleeding for family, because that's what he's supposed to do. He's gone." She nodded. Slowly. Like she was finally seeing the truth she'd ignored for too long. "Do you hate me?" she asked, barely louder than a breath. I shook my head. "No. But I'm done carrying you." We sat there for a while, saying nothing. She left with no money. No promises. Just the truth. But that wasn't the end. A few days later, Mari texted me. Just one line, "I want to talk." I stared at it for 5 solid minutes. Then typed back, "About what?" She didn't respond right away. Then, everything. We met at a little cafe. Neutral ground. She looked different. Worn down. Not so put together. Not so bulletproof. She was wearing a coat I hadn't seen in years, 5, maybe more. Her eyes were ringed with exhaustion. Before I even sat down, she said it. I was wrong. It caught me off guard. I used you, she admitted. I twisted things. I played the victim, even though I was the one digging the hole. I stayed quiet. Just let her speak. You didn't deserve any of it, she said. The lies. The manipulation. The things I said, to your face and behind your back. She paused. I called you cold. Selfish. Controlling. Then she looked me in the eye. But really? I was just jealous. I raised an eyebrow. I envied that you could say no, she said. She said she admired how I had boundaries, that people respected me even when they leaned on me too hard, and that she hated herself for never being able to build anything without me holding it all up. That was the most honest thing she'd said to me in years. I took a deep breath and said, I don't hate you, but I can't be your savior anymore. You have to find your own way. She nodded, swallowing back tears. I'm going to get a job, she said. A real one. I'm not asking for your help, she added. I just want you to know I'm trying. We sat quietly for a while. This time, the silence wasn't awkward. It felt genuine. I'll still be Sam's uncle, I said. But don't mistake kindness for a chance to repeat old mistakes. I won't, she promised. And for the first time, I actually believed her. It's been 6 months since then. No more $2,000 disappearances every first of the month. No more early morning texts demanding rent. No more fake gratitude wrapped in entitlement. No more pretending at dinner that I'm not suffocating. Now, what I have is silence. And peace. At first, that quiet was strange. Not comforting, frightening. I'd spent so long revolving my life around their needs, their debts, their crises that when all of that vanished, I didn't know what was left of me. Turns out, there was plenty. But I had to learn to live without the constant waiting first. The first month, I kept checking my phone, expecting the usual buzz, bracing myself for demands. No payment came. No messages. No nothing. By the second month, something new crept in, relief. Guilt tried to sneak in, but this time, I didn't open the door. I spent a whole weekend by the ocean, just me, a sketch pad I hadn't touched in a decade, and silence so thick it felt like a warm blanket, not a choking noose. I watched the waves crash and thought, I'm still here. And for the first time, I owed no one anything for that. That's when the real me started to return. I signed up for a pottery class. I started biking every morning. I went alone to a jazz night downtown and left with a smile on my face. These might seem like small things, but when you've lived trapped by emotional chains, freedom feels like rebellion. Then came 2 letters, both arriving the same day. One for Mari, one for Mom. Mari's letter was handwritten, messy cursive, with smeared ink. The kind of writing you see when someone finally has to clean up their own mess with their own hands. She told me she got a job. Call center, entry level, lousy pay, but it was hers. She said she'd been sober for 98 days, woke up earlier, made Sam breakfast, and got him to school without yelling. She admitted she still cried sometimes in the bathroom, but those were real tears now, not crocodile tears used to manipulate. She didn't ask for money. She asked for a chance, a real one, to prove she could be someone I'd want in my life again. I didn't reply, not yet, but I folded that letter carefully and kept it like something sacred. Mom's letter was different, cleaner, typed, precise. This time, she didn't defend herself. She confessed. She said I'd always been the strong one, and she'd used that as an excuse to forget I was human too. She admitted she leaned too hard on me, and after Dad died, she clung to whoever could keep her world from falling apart, even if it meant taking advantage of her own son. Then she wrote something I'll never forget. You gave us stability while we took your silence for consent. That broke me, not with anger, but with grief. Grief for all the years I let myself fade away so others could shine. She ended with, "You're not cold. You're courageous. I see it now. I'm sorry it took losing you to realize that." I didn't cry right away. I read that letter 5 times. Then 6. And then I finally let myself break. Fully, openly, alone. It wasn't pain. It was release. Like shaking off chains I didn't even know were still clinging to me. Now, I don't flinch when my phone buzzes. I don't panic when the first of the month rolls around. I don't shrink when someone says family. I ask, which kind? The kind that bleeds you dry? Or the kind that truly sees you? Because I've learned there are families we're born into, and families we choose. Even if that family is just ourselves. Sam, my nephew, still calls me sometimes. We talk about school. Other times about space, superheroes, or what makes the perfect grilled cheese. One night, he said, "Mom says you're the strongest person she knows. She wants to be like you," he added. I nearly dropped the phone. This isn't about revenge. It never was. It's about breaking a cycle. It's about not apologizing for walking away from people who only see your worth when you're feeding them. It's about building a life that doesn't need collapse to be noticed. I'm not the same guy who quietly wrote checks to people who wouldn't show up for me unless I was paying. That version of me is gone. Buried. Mourned. Respected. But not coming back. Now, I have boundaries, not walls. I offer kindness, not obligation. I give, but only when it doesn't cost me myself. I'm not their foundation anymore. I'm my own. And I'm finally standing tall.